Hi everyone, Barbara Moore here. How are you today? I'm waiting for the first person to come live and to tell me that you can hear me because I'm having problems with my microphone. So I just wanted to know if everybody can hear me because nobody could last week. In Canada, we are just coming off of our long Thanksgiving weekend. And, as weekends go, we always cram too much into the 3 days that we get off. We get one extra day, and we seem to cram a whole ton of stuff into that extra day. So today feels like, thank you, Jackie. I appreciate that. Welcome today, Jackie. It feels like... to me like it's Monday, and I almost forgot about, hi Diane, thank you for joining us today. Hi Carol. So today I'm feeling like it's Monday, and I had to really rush around to get ready to do everything today. And of course everybody knows, you must know if you're Americans, because you take 4 days for the Thanksgiving holiday. It's a shorter week, but you have to just cram everything into that week, right? So I don't know, to me it often doesn't make sense to have the extra day off, but we had a fabulous turkey dinner with all the stuffings and everything. My daughter and son-in-law hosted us this year, and my son-in-law has a smoker, and he smoked the turkey. So I know people have talked about, having deep fried turkeys and stuff, right? So this was something a little bit different. It's really funny because it tastes a little bit different. It has that smoky flavor to it. But it also, the meat stays a little pink. So it was a little bit weird, but I'm telling you, it was a delicious turkey, absolutely delicious. And of course, they opened their home to all of us, and all my kids were there, so it was really wonderful. I really had a good weekend. I know some of us are Canadian, and you celebrated celebrated along with me. So that's our Thanksgiving for this year, and we'll be looking forward to the American Thanksgiving because I know that's a bigger deal than it usually is in... Hi, Sandra. Hi, Carol. It usually is a bigger deal in the States than it is in here in Canada, right? But yours comes so close to Christmas and everything too. So today we're going to talk about the information highway. I'm wondering what happened to you when you were diagnosed with your chronic illness, or when you're diagnosed with anything. It doesn't even have to be, COPD, but anything that you're diagnosed with. And the doctor kind of, lately my doctor's been writing it on a piece of paper and saying, go home and Google this and see what you think it is. And I have a very short attention span when it comes to reading. So I have a bit of a problem with that. I'd really like him to just, explain it to me in the right ones, because sometimes what happens when we get into Google. We get into this... information highway, and we get overloaded and oversaturated. So I know we have to have education about our illness, and I get this, I really do. And I get it's a necessity. It's really important for us to understand. But sometimes the information can be overwhelming. And the problem with the internet is that it has everything on it, right? But anybody can write stuff on the internet, right? Anybody can say stuff on the internet, and anybody can write anything there. And they put the stuff out for you to read. And one of the things that you have to do when you're gaining information about your health is you have to decipher what is good news and what is not good news. And this takes some practice, especially when you don't have a go-to person. Hi, Jean. Thank you for joining us today. It's a little bit different when we have a go-to person that we can say, is this right or is this wrong, right? I remember, when I was teaching and I would tell my students to go on Google and find something, and very often Very often with things that are being researched, students would come up to me and say, I just need to know if I'm on the right track. And so this is the problem with educating ourselves about our own illness, right? We can become oversaturated. And one of the things that I'm finding is a little bit oversaturating now and a little bit too much is the amount of support groups. And I do belong to a lot of support groups for COPD and for heart, because I also have a heart issue. And I join a lot of groups and I read a lot that is going on, because I like to know what's going on so that I can write my blog. But does this information overload, and does this information, first of all, overload us, right? Hi, Elaine. I'm glad you're joined us today. Does this information overload us? Do we get too much information? Is it on our minds too much of the time? And I'm finding in the last little while that this is true for me. I'm almost on it too much, and I would say that 80% of my day, at least Mondays and Tuesdays in the week anyways, is taken up with COPD. And I gain a lot of information. I get a lot of information, and I gather a lot of information because I want to hear what you have to say so that I can write about it. But does this allow us to move forward, or does it stop us from moving forward in life? All of this information, and it's not just about your chronic illness, it's everything, right? My son is an apprentice mechanic, and if he wants to know something, he goes to Google to find it, and there's always a YouTube video or something that he can find information, usually get the answer to it, right? But I don't know, I wonder how much of this is allowing us to move forward with our life. There is other things in this life besides our illness, right? And so is information overload a problem for you? Is it becoming a problem for you? Oh, Jackie, that's an issue, right? I remember when Dr. Welby was on, and it was one of the first medical shows, that was really in depth back in the days. And I remember every time he'd be on Sunday night, we'd go to work on Monday, and everybody would have the symptoms, right? Yeah, Jean, I just, information overload happens when the input exceeds the processing capacity. This is a Google, a Wikipedia definition of what happens when we are in information overload. So we're taking in too much, more than we can process. And as much as I think that online groups are really, really important to us, I think we need to kind of pick and choose which ones and what kind of chronic illnesses we want to follow. Because otherwise we can get caught up in it too. We just get caught up in it too much, right? Carol says she's getting into depression. Carol, talk to us about this because of too many groups. Too much information. You're not doing what other people are doing. I find sometimes that I wonder if people are being truthful in the exercises that they're doing, because I can't imagine being able to do all of these things that people are saying that they're doing. It's not that I disagree with them. It's not that I don't want to believe them. But there's two sides to it, right? First of all, I want to know that it's true. And second of all, I don't want to, as much as I'd like to mimic it, I don't want to envy you, right? I don't want to be envious of you. And it's really hard, right? When you hear that, people with COPD that is maybe, I don't know, maybe not to the degree of yours, that Maybe that it's not, maybe their COPD isn't as bad as yours is or not as advanced as it is. You know, also other people have different issues. Like I have COPD, but I also have a heart issue. And so people don't think too much about it unless you have it. But once you have a heart issue, you understand that it makes you so tired. You're just tired all the time. And all you can think about is getting back into bed, right? And yeah, I guess, you know, COPD does become all-consuming. And I found that since I've been diagnosed, it's been kind of a all-consuming thing that I was talking to Carol earlier today, and I was telling her that we're going to a wedding this weekend, and the wedding is out of town. And so here it is Tuesday, and I've been worried and anxious about this for the last 2 or 3 weeks. It sounded like a really good idea when we sent the invite back, or we sent the response back, but now it's getting to, you know, a couple of days away, and I'm starting to get really anxious about, you know, what will my COPD act like, you know. Now, one of the reasons I've got to say is that I started with online groups and I started with my blog and all of this information was because I needed to know more about COPD, and I needed to know what you were going through, what it was like for you, and I needed to know if what I was feeling was normal. And so that was the good part of what I learned, because I did learn that part, right? And I did gain a lot of information, and I do gain a lot of information from support groups. One of the things that I've learned, that I learned from the support groups, that they're coming out with new and better techniques to handle COPD. And so the future is promising for COPD. Now, in Canada, we're a little bit behind the United States. So those things like the valves, the Zephyr valves, and those kinds of things, they're not here in Canada yet, or if they are, they're not used as often as they're not used as often as they are in the States, and they're not as popular as they are in the States. So I'm looking forward to kind of asking my doctor about that sort of thing. And I certainly would not have had a voice or an opinion on that until I got into the groups, right? But when the amount of what we learn and the complexity of it inhibits your ability to choose the right path, then we're stuck and we don't know where to go. And this sometimes happens with too much information, that we collect and we record and we preserve the information, but then what do we do with it after, right? Hi, Lori. Thanks for joining us today. So what do we do with it after, you know? And I also know that, you know, I get to see my doctor 2 or 3 times a year, if I'm lucky. More than that if I have exacerbations or if I'm in the hospital. But often when I'm in the hospital, I won't even see him. You know, he'll tell the other doctors what to do and so forth. So what do we do with this information? And I'm not getting a lot of FaceTime with my doctor, and I think everybody is in the same boat. If you're lucky to have a pulmonary doctor, you're not seeing him more than once or maybe twice or 3 times a year. And that would be the maximum that. So in that time, you know, you've got 20 minutes, 15 maybe. And 15, 20 minutes doesn't give you a lot of time for information. So that was kind of where I started to move with the information that I was using to join support groups and to do my blog. But how many of you are actually reading my blog? I really would like to know, and I'll tell you why in a few minutes. Because I don't know that there's a lot of blogs out there on COPD, which was where I got started, or why I got started writing my own. But truthfully, how many people really want to read a blog anymore? And you can be dead honest. Like I should really send out a survey. Maybe I'll send out a survey. I'll see if I can do a monkey survey or something. Because I don't have a huge followership. Like for the tea time I do, I have tons of people that follow, and you know, I gain 5 or 10 people. So Carol says that she hasn't stepped away completely from support groups, but she's really minimized it, and she's starting to getting back to the things that she enjoys in life. And that's sometimes nice, eh? Sometimes that's nice not to have your whole day revolving around, you know, COPD and making memes and answering people. And I spend an awful lot of time doing it, and I probably shouldn't be spending that much time on the computer. But, you know, I can sit and watch a movie, and I can go through my phone, and I can have 43 messages left for me that I always want to respond to everybody who talks to me. So yeah, I agree, Sandra. I think if anybody was being honest, they would tell me the truth, that really blogs aren't really being used anymore. And I tried a few times to monetize. I've talked to a few people about monetizing my blog, but I can't go making money off of you guys because it's just not right. Like, none of us have any money, and most of us have had to retire early. So I don't know how I could make money off of you guys. And if there's no compensation in it, it just seems like a losing battle to me. So my weeks start on Monday and Tuesday, and I put an awful lot of time into my tea time on my blog. And so Monday and Tuesday are just days that I don't get paid for. And I think, Vicky, that it's we should really start picking and choosing what groups we want to belong to, right? And there are some very good groups out there. Noah has a good group. Derek Cummings has a fabulous group. There's a couple more online that are really, really good. Sandra, your group is fabulous, the Exercise to Healthy Living. Yeah, Amy, I'm the same. I can't believe that people can exercise the way that they say they do. I'm not negating anybody, but I don't know how you do it. And like I said before, Amy, maybe it's that your COPD or their COPD is not as severe as yours, and it's totally that's possible. What I find with, because I have a heart issue, when I start retaining water, I can hardly move. Honest to God, I feel like a sloth. And I'm really having a problem with this lately, that I can't get this water off. And the medications that they're giving me to try and get it off is really killing me. So I don't know what I'm going to do. Yeah, I hear you, Marion. I won't take it to heart, but what I am thinking about is scrapping the blog, because it does cost a little bit to do it. You know, there's a yearly fee to have it up. There's the time and effort that I have to put into it, but I also pay somebody to kind of manage that space for me, because I'm not that tech savvy. So when things have to be changed in that, you know, I get somebody else to do it. And it ends up costing me, well, more money than I have, because I don't have any money. So Lori says that when she was first diagnosed, she was in really bad shape physically and emotionally. Some of the groups saved her and brought her back to life. And I agree with that, Lori. What I'm saying, though, is I definitely think that people with COPD and people with certain chronic illnesses need to belong to the support groups. You need to have a support group. My blog, Amy, is at catchyourbreath60.com. Everything is Catch Your Breath 60. So the blog is at catchyourbreath60.com. Have a look at it, and really I'd love an honest opinion from you on what you think of it. I think that we put a lot of effort into blogs, and blogs have to be 500 words before they're anything on a Google search, right? So not only do I pay for that, but I also pay for Yoast too, which is a monthly amount, and it all adds up. All these little bits add up, and when you kind of look at it over the amount of time, and that I don't think that anybody is really reading it. I don't think that people are really going to my blog, and I can get 500 people following me here on Tea Time, but I can't get 100 reads on my blog. So, the proof is in the pudding. So what does everybody else have to talk about? I'm thinking about scrapping my blog, and so that's kind of where this is going today. And I'm urging you to kind of cut back on your, look at your support groups and look at the ones that really have value to you. Get rid of the rest of them for a little while. You don't have to delete them or stop your membership. If you don't answer to them or you don't respond to them, very quickly the algorithm will change and you won't see them anymore. So, something to think about, right? So my blog is at catchyourbreath60.com. I am also on Twitter at catchbreath60. I am on Instagram at catchyourbreath60. I am on Pinterest at catchyourbreath60. Yeah, and Lori, if there's a group that's not positive, then there's no point in you wasting your time with them, right? Anything that's not positive in our lives now. Listen, we've worked too hard in our lives and we've lived too long in our lives to be taking on negative stuff now. And so anytime that you feel like, somebody is disrespecting you or not answering you in a respectful or a proper manner, I think that it's time for you to kind of walk away, right? And so we don't need any more negativity in our life. We've got enough. We got COPD. We have enough negativity in our life. So, yeah, you can shut off your notifications for a while, right? And you just don't see them. And the algorithm changes very, very quickly if you don't respond to a group. So I have some very good news. A buddy of mine got his new lungs last night, and I'm absolutely thrilled for him. Please say a prayer for my buddy that the transplant goes well. He got his 2 lungs, and that his transplant goes well and that he has a speedy recovery, because we really need him back. He's an excellent guy who works tirelessly for COPD, and not in the way that I do, but he works on hospital boards. So he's really getting something done. So that's it for Catch Your Breath 60 today. This is Tea Time Tuesday, and my name is Barbara Moore. I have COPD and right-sided heart failure. Join us every week at 3 o'clock for Tea Time Tuesday, and that's 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Thank you everybody for joining us today, and I really, really appreciate your comments, and I work on answering every single one of them. Thank you for today.